we set this stage back a while ago, actually, that we proposed months and months ago to speak at South by Southwest, in part because we had been meeting all of the fabulous people that you've been hearing and seeing for 39 sessions, and this is many more than we actually were talking about. And we were trying to see how this fabric all patched together, that we were seeing people that were doing really great studies that became benchmarks for cities. We were running into fabulous music education folks, and we were trying to propose that people should talk together more. So, Storm, did we do that?
I think so. As I sat in sessions last night and moderated some in the early morning hours, and heard so many innovative things happening in other parts of the world, and I could tell that the audiences were interested in learning about these new innovative ways and sharing them. We've been sort of an aggregator of all these great thinkers, I think, and we've even seen within panels, various participants find out what the other participant is doing, and we've created probably conversations and partnerships that are going to happen from these particular sessions, even among the participants and the panelists. So I think so.
This was supposed to be last Friday, and we actually set the table, 3 weeks earlier, and invited people to come to the conversation. And in many ways, this has been like the proverbial stone soup, right? So here's us with our 2 little stones in a bowl of water that we set to boil, and we said, put in your vegetables and meat and whatever else you're going to put in. And I think we got some good broth out of it. My family's doing a lot of home cooking right now, so I'm having some really fabulous soup at home anyway. But I would contest that this has been an interesting journey. That part of it is, can we bring people together without having to be an official voice? And so many people are standing in spots of being official voices and creating new emergent structures. So that's, I guess, one of my challenges to this group, is to basically say, how do we work together better? And how do we learn from each other? And this is going to potentially be a really unknown type of period we're heading into. Will it be hyper competitive? That's one of the things that's come out. Yet we've been hearing a lot of, can we work together things the past few days? Is it going to be large organizations continue to dominate? Or as one of the panels earlier was saying, well, maybe not. Maybe this is the time of live local music, and the larger multinational corporations, as was commented earlier, will have a harder time, or will need to really flex their muscles in this time ahead. How do we keep talking to each other?
Well, we definitely need to. We can tell from the interactions that we've had that this conversation has to continue.
So we are bequeathing you all the Slack channel, and we'll see how that percolates. I've set up, but I'll send an introduction as a follow-up to a Mighty Network space. I don't know if you've used Mighty Networks. I really like it. It's hard to get people to come in, though, and it's much more of an expansive sharing and conversation space. We'll see if that works out a bit. Our anticipation was to do rooms of 10 to 50 people, and that's what we've had across a lot of the time. Though with all of the sharing from this crew here, most of you sharing to your own communities, we had 900 people sign up. So I tend to joke in Los Angeles, if there's a free ticket, you'll get about 30% showing. Here, if there was a free ticket and you had to come in and log in, we had the right people in the room, though. So I think that we're going to take these videos. We were originally going to live stream. We were going to live stream as of even a few days ago, and I turned to the small crew running this thing, and I said, do we really want to do that? I think it gives us the opportunity to sit and really look at what we have and then bring it back to some of those 900 people to share those ideas. So I don't know who's going to come into the Slack channel from this, but I guess my challenge to the group is, how do we want to offer and provide to each other and to really think about new structures and emergent ways to work? Storm, what do you want to challenge the group with?
Well, we've offered a lot to digest over these 25 hours, and some of you have attended many of those sessions, some of you just one or two. But think about I think, Gigi, I'm going to ask you to reiterate it, but the 3 things clarify for me, which is always your goal with any of these
I
programs.
just
The
make
three
things more
things?
complicated. The three things?
Yeah.
Oh, the three
Come
things.
away with three ideas. What was
Yeah.
it?
So hopefully this is what I challenge most events to, or myself when I go someplace. I mean, South by Southwest was some of the pivot for this for me. That 3 years ago I was hearing all these great Music Cities panels, but then they weren't threaded. And for me, I go to South by Southwest as grad school every year, grad school for my brain, so that I step into things I don't know anything about. So hopefully with us, you have gotten three things you didn't already know. And if you haven't, come back and watch the videos again with your feet propped up in a cocktail, always good. And hopefully you've met three people, and it could have been on a panel you were on, or that you're inspired by somebody. Almost everyone left contact information, which we've put in the chat. So reach out and offer or ask for advice or find some kind of thread between. I do think that the next 6 months is going to involve the restructuring of a lot of things besides music. I appreciated Medea had a section, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong too. A week and a half ago, they had a Monday morning session,
Mm-hmm.
and they said that we talk about music as if music is suffering this devastating loss. Music at least has more revenue than other industries that had only a live delivery. Now you're thinking, but I'm in live delivery. That at least we still have, and we haven't talked about the crunch of the advertising market, which actually may impact the streaming side pretty dramatically. But we at least there's revenue coming where the folks in food service are scrambling and other sectors have been decimated. So I think that there'll be more businesses than music rethinking everything. I'm spending a lot of my time in higher education and in children's education and in music education about how what we've been delivering has been habit and assumptions and old narratives. And I think people are going to try to take new narratives to the table here. And some people are going to try to hijack our narratives, which has been happening in some of the protests right now. I think this is a time for you to reach out beyond the trade publications and the word of mouth and actually talk to real people about things to do together. But I think we can look to other sectors and other people not even at this table for three new ideas and three new people to be able to connect with.
And, there is an irony in the fact that we were going to present at South by Southwest about how we take a look, many cities take a look at where they are now in their music ecosystems and where they've been, and they crunch a lot of numbers and say, here's what we've got. The challenge, though, is how does it turn into action? So I would also add that, as we've taken a lot of looks at where we are now and what we've been through with the coronavirus, but action is the key. We can talk about a lot of things, but what is your part in making sure that we carry forward what we've talked about as what needed to be done on an individual level, and as you're part of your organization that you may be either a part of or run? How can we make sure that the actions and the specific deliverables come out of all this conversation too?
And we haven't talked about a lot of things. So there's a lot of, in session one, I commented that we're missing stories here, right? That we are largely, this is a people who invited people who invited people. So we are missing a lot of less represented voices. We're missing a lot of cities and organizations, and we're missing people who could be brought to the table. So I want to encourage people to be reaching out beyond their normal people.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that we're going to live with layers of this to think about music in other ways. So, higher education's going to change. We're probably going to have the bankruptcies of a fair number of mid-sized colleges. College towns that have had music scenes are going to find their whole economics changed permanently. People may or may not want to live in big cities anymore, which is the big trend of megacities we were looking to. There's probably other waves of movement in here that local music can think about what their city is going to become. And I might suggest looking extensively, and I think I don't know if Jesse's on this call. Yes, he is. Or in this part of the call, that the music district in Fort Collins, to me, is always a great example of rethinking what it is to be in a city that's really thinking about what is the right place for music and creating an ecosystem of support and change. I think a lot of people are going to wonder, where do I want to live? I've now seen my city in action. And I think that it's time for people to look at each other's cities, figure out what can be a robust local business, and what can be done with that.
Allison, thank you for your comments in the chat box. And you do ask a very important question that we should probably address at this stage of the game. What about the updates, the reconvening and all of that?
Well, somebody said already Amplify Music 2011 or 2021. 2011 would be a while ago. I must admit,
that'd be a miracle, wouldn't it?
That would be time travel. No, it's when Jim was talking about Max Headroom, I cracked up. I had my mic off because I'm looking at him going, he looks like Max Headroom. And then I was thinking, wait, half the people in here wouldn't know what Max Headroom was. So that was a whole different thing going on. We talked initially about reconvening because in many ways, one of our thoughts about the conversation was that we were looking at all these music city studies that were lamenting the struggles of their cities in music. And I don't think they meant to be baselines for a decimation of their current sectors. So when we talked about this, we were trying to figure where do we put a pin in the time map to sort of start the conversation. And I think we were thinking of bringing people together again virtually in August. And we were going to pick a couple days in August. And I don't know if that's far enough out or if it's a good time to maybe come back and have more group conversations that are really working sessions to come back and not just we talking at you for a half an hour at a time, but gathering people to really talk through together, maybe digital roundtables. I've been doing online stuff for 15 years plus. I think my first YouTube channel was 2005 when they opened, and I've been teaching online for, I don't know, at places other than UCLA for, 12, 15 years. I think we can do a lot in actually convening at a distance. So that's my proposition, to figure a few days in August, try to do it inexpensively again, make it accessible and bring in people from a variety of age groups and with broader demographics, and have some of these bridge conversations again. What do you think, Storm?
I'm in.
Okay, well, we need more
I've
people.
said that a lot as we've been working together. But
we need more people. So many thanks. I'm going to do some thanks before we wrap up. And please, if there's any other Q&As, we've got a couple of questions in the box. Allison said of the reconvening. Kellen says, are there any other specific cities you admire, look up to in terms of having innovative music ecosystems, either in the U.S. or abroad? Storm, you want to take that one?
Well, you did mention the music district, which is something I think you should look up. And if Jesse's here, maybe he could add the link.
I'm allowing him to talk, and I'm actually bringing him to the table.
Okay, good. So I would definitely recommend. Hello, Jesse.
Hey, y'all. Right. I've got a really poor internet connection, so I only heard.
Oh,
sorry.
We'll and you got muted.
District links up there for you, and I'm happy to connect with anyone.
Well, I think Kellen should connect with you. He's in the chat, and he asked if there were any other specific cities that you admire, look up to in terms of having innovative music ecosystems. And he said any other, possibly as a reference to any others besides Fort Collins, but it's worth reiterating the work that the music district is doing. There are lots of fabulous things happening in a lot of cities, Kellen. And please reach out to Gigi or myself, and we can update you on what we're finding. But there's innovative programs as well happening, and so when you talk about a music ecosystem, there are some where there are things happening in various cities that if they were all together, they'd be one. But I think look beyond just the city and the different programs and the cool things that are happening within those ecosystems. But Gigi, would you add anything to that?
I'm loving the work that's happening in most cities by somebody. So the areas that I tend to get quite excited about are the folks who are rethinking music education in K-12 and in the communities. And I'm finding phenomenal programs in many cities that are all wrestling with kind of how do we create emergent music education that honors our community, that's inclusive, that is actually trying to both embrace local community and be challenging status quo and norms. And I was just happy in this event that we could be introducing so many of them to each other. And that's one of my missions right now, is to get all of those groups who've now had to really rethink, I'm going online, what? And they've been figuring out, we heard a lot of them in this today. I'm really happy with a lot of people who joined us who are doing multi-city efforts. They're doing local, but many. So whether it's the G Beta folks working with Generator, whether it's House of Blues, whether there's all these folks who've been able to take local and then take great things about it and then connect up local. So what I'd like to see is more people talking to each other. The other thing that I know is a constant struggle with this is whose job is it to make the city work well? And so if it ends up being something looking to the city for, then you're kind of beholden to and the new mayor comes in, and suddenly so what is that sort of ecosystem issue? And I do think that the interesting things is that you can't cookie cutter cities, that it really is that something that works in one city can't be transplanted, but there might be some threads of it. So hopefully you've met some threads through all of this and heard different venues taking different approaches. So I think that part of the challenge is that you've got a lot of status quo that's stuck at times, that's trying to defend its turf. And I think it wasn't that this sector wasn't having lots of issues before this, despite the lift from streaming, that it's now that we're having the momentum to ask questions and to get together. And you heard several organizations today who come together in the past week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that this has been a catalyst for change.
Thank you for that question, Kellen.
Yeah, and I wanted to share one thing before we end up wrapping up. I think we'll wrap up maybe a little early and continue this in the chat. And thank yous I want to go to. The first screen I'd like to share is that very early on, groups came to the table to be part of this. So I want to do a slow scroll in a staggering way here to thank my location, the Herb Alpert School of Music, who has been gracious in me being gracious with this. Your team at University of Colorado, Denver, who's been thoughtful about this.
Very
Matt's
supportive,
team
yes.
at Majestic Collaborations. Matt and Molly have been great, but they also lent us Cassie part-time and lent us Allie part-time, and that's been a gift. I'm not sure we would be anywhere near here. UCLA also let me connect Alex, who is, I think, in the attendees, or maybe he went away. Oh, there is Alex. Hey, Alex.
There he is, yeah.
How's this experience been as a college fourth year?
I feel so lucky that I got to be a part of this. It's kind of one of the coolest things I've gotten to do at UCLA, and I'm glad it happened before I wrapped up. Yeah.
We need to get you into other cool things too, but yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we're glad we got you before everyone else starts the bidding war. So
yeah, absolutely. But I wanted to sort of thank all of these sessions and panels were essentially part of the Stone Soup. The people were bringing their relationships and friends to the table. So Vibe Lab has been marvelous at helping us not just with their sessions, but connect up with nightmares and people all over the world. Performing Arts Readiness, Tom's been really wonderful at helping connect the dots here. Sound Diplomacy came in very early to help. Mia did several sessions. Global Cities After Dark is tied in with nighttime.org. Imbra has been great at also helping identify things. Responsible Hospitality, you've heard. Bohemian's been on several things. Michael Bracey and the whole crew at Music Policy Forum. You heard also from Quende, and you heard also from Don Pitts. Recorded Music New Zealand was late into our evening last night, but shared what's really interesting happening in New Zealand. Mira from Music Portland stepped in really early. Garen Wire, Margaret Morse, thank goodness you came in early. She was part of the research team working on the original research from her home in San Diego. I think it was right after she got married. So she also is helping us in the back of it all now. G Beta's been great. Sound Music City, Live DMA ran several sessions and connected the dots. And I could just keep going with this. King County Creative, Kate's been great, but also has been a great thought leader in this space. Fielding both inspires me and gave us Connie to the project. NYU, Grooveless. Oh my gosh, Max, you brought Latin America to us and brought people we'd never met before into the conversation. Creative Law, Dave, thank you for being part of that. And Capers have been there. Wayne State's been, Ronkel brought a whole panel from India to us. Youth on Record, of course, Jamie and all her adventures. And then everyone else. And we probably haven't even caught up with all of the logos of people who've stepped up to the plate to be part of this conversation. So thank you. And Storm, any other thank yous that we need to give other than to each other? And and to Lucky. Where's Lucky right now?
My son Lucky, the 2-year-old, he is equipped with a Paw Patrol episode right now and some chicken nuggets, so he's good. But sorry, or I'm glad he could be along for the ride. But.
He's been good. He's mostly been in Storm's lap. And watching generally a truck or train video while we've been talking. So
yeah,
and please thank Cassie, your wife.
Yeah, I'll pass along. She'll be glad to see me again. But Cassie has been awesome, and I've worked with her before when she was a student, and she sets such high standards for herself and the people around her, and she has done the same with us, and it's been a pleasure getting her input and her support, not only in the tasks to do, but her energy has been contagious too, and probably helped us get through too. So Alex and Cassie and Margaret and everybody who helped out, it's just been a great team to work with.
So my challenge to you all is that it possibly should not have taken a pandemic to bring everyone together. That we have other features like South by that can be bridges, but still that doesn't get everybody together. So I do think that I'm thrilled to pieces that people met 3 people they didn't know mostly, and that people who we adore have met other people we adore. So I'd like you to think about whether it's a loose gathering that we gather occasionally, or that this folds into something that is more connective tissue. I'm saddened in many ways. This is a little bit of a follow-on to Mira, which doesn't exist. That the passing of its executive director ended up closing the Music Industry Research Association. But I do think that there is a place to think more deeply about some of this stuff and not just sort of fight about what's in the trades, and to really think about where we want to take the music industry. So I offer up this conversation as a starter point. Please join us over in Slack and Environs. I'd like to thank the people who, when people came into Eventbrite, they could tip the kitty, and that pretty much has made us break even on the expenses for this. So yay! Appreciate that, and thank you all for your efforts. Any other last Q&As or comments before we spin off into caffeine and other beverages? Thank you all very much. This will show up in YouTube, and we'll send you guys notices about that. We'll send shared contact information and other things, and we'll share information inviting you to regather digitally in expanded thought processes in August.
August it is.
August it is. Thank you guys.
Thanks,
very
everyone.
much.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you.